right, so we're going to, on this one, dig into dev containers a little more. Welcome back. Thank you for showing up again. So dev containers are isolated environments, right, where you're inside of a Docker container and you're working in there. And so we're going to kind of glance over some of the light parts about it and assume you know a little bit. And we're going to kind of dig into a little more of the technical details. So if you notice, I have a devcontainer.json up there, and a little bit about it, right? I'm picking the image. So there's a lot of images. If you go online, there's a lot of pre-loaded images, preloaded with Python, Golang, JavaScript, kind of whatever you need, right? And I say JavaScript like Node, whatever you kind of need. There's some preloaded containers. There's universal ones that are a little heavy, but they have pretty much everything in it. And then there's some empty ones that you can add things as you go. So that's the basis of the image, right? Some of you just have the dev container and use what you want. But I have a 312 here for Python. That's kind of I'm not going to say the happy medium. Some of the newer Python has some nice features, but some of the packages that you're going to use and some of the tools you're going to use haven't caught up yet. I've found that 312 is kind of I'm considering it like an LTS version that everybody's kind of supporting right now. So 312 is kind of where I run. If you go to customizations, look at VS Code extensions. So basically over here, these extensions for VS Code, once you get into the dev container, you don't have to reinstall or go find them. You can install them as part of the dev container itself. So if I wanted to add Rainbow CSV, if I wanted to add some of the things that I use every day, you just add them in extensions and rinse and repeat. And the other thing that's helpful here in this lightweight image is the post create command, pip install -r requirements.txt, and I'm going to have to put a requirements.txt out there for this to work. But that way you don't have to set it up when you get in there. Once the container runs, it automatically does the pip install and runs everything you have. Now remember, when you're in that container, you're inside an isolated environment. So you don't have to set up a virtual environment inside of the dev container because you're already isolated. Some people do. It's not bad, it's just redundant. It's not a horrible practice, but I don't. I just use the dev container as isolation itself. And again, here you could use UV, whatever you want to use, but you have to install UV as part of the container in order to use it. So we're picking Python 312. We know pip's there, so we're going to pip install the requirements.txt. And I'll do a little more lightly configuring here, and we'll kind of get going. Okay, so I had the requirements.txt, it's empty. One of the things here, when we start talking about data mounts, those of you who are familiar with Docker really deeply know that you have to mount volumes and you can mount folders for it to be part of the volume and all the things. So one of the things that is nice here is that dev containers automatically mount everything in this directory. So if you have things in other places, technically you can just drop them in here. You don't really have to go out and mount them. If you drop them in this directory, they will mount automatically. And we're going to see that because I'm going to do some magic with my AWS profile and some features in a little bit to kind of make this a nice, easy setup so you're not having to fight a lot of things. But for those of you who need refreshed, so if I click this bottom left connect down here at the bottom, you'll see I get a lot of options here in VS Code. I use reopening container, so I choose reopening container. The post create command always runs once, so if there were actually things in my requirements.txt, it would actually install. So here we are inside the container, and just again, new terminal, you're inside of this. If I do an ls, maybe I could do an ls. If I do an ls, the only thing in here is requirements.txt, and that is the auto mounting that you get here, right? You get everything in here kind of mounted for you. Okay. Now, I'm going to stop this container, and we're going to get a little more not going to say advanced because we're not really there yet, but I just want to show you some things that are kind of helpful. So here's a different way, and let me copy. I made a few of these to walk through. Let's extend this a little bit. So you're going to look at features. Features is the first thing. Okay, in features, you see I'm using the GHCRIO. This is where the dev container features live normally. And I'm going to put AWS CLI there. So I get the AWS command line inside of my container for free. I don't have to do an install. I don't have to add it. I don't have to do any of the things or configure it. And then if you notice, I'm mounting my .aws to vscode.aws. And I don't know that that's, let's see if that source is going to work. I might have to do user, but we're going to see what this does. And so we're going to mount this inside, and notice there's no RO there. I'm not doing read only, but I'm mounting that folder in so that I get the profile. And then visual code extensions stay the same, and this stays the same, and there's an issue with that. Okay, so let's open this and let's see what we have. Before I do that, let me change this mount. I'm going to change this to mount to where it normally is. Well, maybe I gotta copy it over here. I need to mount it to where it normally is. That mount would be fine if, there's a comma there. That mount would be fine if I had it in here. And honestly, if I had it inside the repo, if I copy and paste in there, it would just come in, just like the requirements.txt did. Okay, but this is having me go out there and grab it from where it lives, and then I can use the AWS CLI in here. So let's spin this up and see if this even works. So I'm going to reopen a container. Okay, and it's going to do things. And then let's check a couple things here. Let's, what is this? Oh, it's behind that's great. It does need rebuilt, that is true. It's behind my video though. So if I just rebuild here, whenever you do something new to it, if you just reopen it, it's not going to always apply the newest thing that you did. You have to rebuild it. So I'm reopening it and rebuilding it. And there's all the rebuilding. It did the pip stuff that it needed, and then it tells me to pip install upgrade. I could actually add that as part of this command here if I wanted to. It's giving me a lot of suggested things, but first thing I want to do is, you'll notice AWS is there, right? So I have AWS in there. Let's see what else is in here. So if I go up a layer, I got dev containers. What if I go up another layer more? Okay, so I'm here at the root, and there's all the root things. So you see I'm kind of just going through, and I think that's top level. It is, and then the famous CD home. Cool. So now I'm back in home. So I'm going to do something. Let me see if it recognizes my SSO login, and then profile, and let's see if it picked it up. And it did. Okay, so I don't have to go out anymore and do the login. I can do it right in here because I added, once I approve it, I added that AWS CLI to the container right here as a feature. There's a whole list of features, and you can add a lot of things, and then we'll maybe look at a couple other features. But it's just a one-step rebuild it, and now I have AWS in here. And so I've mapped my actual SSO as well, and now I can use that AWS command line in here for things and not have to go back out and forth and worry about installing and doing all the things. Okay, so I kind of get that in here for free. All right, we're going to do a little bit of kind of addition here. We're going to combine in a Docker container that has Postgres in it, and we're going to show you the kind of the proper way to add Postgres to your dev container, and how it gets you on the same network, and you don't have to go find ports. You can use it as a named container. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of enhance my file here a little bit, just to make sure. I should add the workspace itself to it, and that's fine, and then the service here as part of it. So this is all kind of the only differences that I made. Same mount, same features right now, but the next thing I need to do is in this .dev container, and I'm going to do this inside of here because we're going to kind of do a little bit of connecting things. So in here, I'm going to do a Docker compose YAML. Okay. And in that Docker compose, okay, in Docker compose, I'm going to add both things. So, you know, a minute ago I said, I kind of glanced over it, I said, oh, services app. Well, the reason I did that, and you'll notice that my image is gone from here, right? I had before, and I'll show you, let me Command Z it. I had the image here, dev container, Python 3.12, all this was kind of there. Okay, but now if you go back the other way, you'll see that service is now app, and that's gone because I put it in my Docker compose. And now I'm caching this volume. I have the workspace cached here, and I'm in the dev container. You have to have Sleep Infinity for it to run. If you don't have this, your container will keep closing because it doesn't have anything to keep it up. And so I have Postgres here now, Postgres data. Postgres 16 is fine. I prefer 17 a lot of times, but 16 is good. DB, we're going to keep it simple. And the volume is Postgres data, this persist data. Now the thing that's good here is everything's going to be in the same network. So I don't have to worry about using the special Docker command that goes up a level and tries to find, it's like the Docker internal to where I get up a level and I can see the ports because I'm on the same network here as this Postgres. And so this should, if I rebuild, because I did different things, let's see if it'll rebuild the whole thing or if there's problems. And there may be problems because I'm just rebuilding on the fly, even though it's what it is here. Oh good, workspace does not exist. Cool, that is fine. Post command from devcontainer.json failed. Okay, no worries, let's go back a level and let's troubleshoot this. Open file locally. Okay, so the issue is Docker compose, I think, is struggling with this variable I had here. So it's this guy. I'm going to try hard coding that in here. And I don't even know if I need to go any further than that, but we're going to find out and add a couple things here. So I've removed that, and I'm just going to do workspaces cache. That variable that was there isn't working, and I don't have anything here that I have to worry about. A lot of times you have a project folder, and so it'll be workspaces then your project folder, but I don't have a project folder, so I went ahead and removed that from here too. So let me show you what I did real quick. This local workspace folder base name, I just don't have that. All right, I'm working straight out of the root. So now if I, and allegedly, in theory, we're going to find out if my hypothesis is correct. I'm going to reopen a container, and now it should just work, and now it does, right? Cool, cool. And you get these, and I'll move this over so you can see it a little bit. This is just letting us know that, well, with AWS CLI, there's other things that could be helpful here, like Amazon Q. So that's all that is. Now, if I go to, oh, I don't have dev containers in here, which is nice, but let me go to Docker and pull up what this looks like in reality here. So I have, if you'll notice, dev containers, I have a app one, which is the app, and then I have DB1, and they all came up together. And so we're going to connect to this, and I'm going to show you how to use this since they're in the same network the way we configured it, because dev container, since they're together, automatically put these on the same network. I'll show you how to connect in a a simple Python file and what we now use for the URL for that database. That makes it a little less complex. Okay. So if I want to connect to this, okay, a couple things I'm going to need to do. I'm going to need to add libraries. So the great thing here, so if I add requests, and I'm going to do a video later on requests versus HTTPX, but I'm just going to use requests for now. And then scicop G2 binary. And let's say I want to install these, right? I just go up here and I just rebuild. And the reason that works is because we have that pip-r install command that runs, and see all the installings automatically happening, so I don't have to do that. And if you'll notice, there's nothing underlined in my requirements until now. And the easy fix, as always, is select the Python interpreter. And it's the one that is in user local bin Python, I think is correct. Is it? Maybe it's not. Let's try the one that is global. Let's try the one that should be here. Interesting. So the way to find that out, if I do a terminal, I could say which Python, if which is installed. There it is, user local bin Python. So Control-Shift-P, Python interpreter is user local bin Python. So that is the one we're using. Okay, and then they went away. But that's the easiest way to determine which Python that you want to pick sometimes for that, to line it up with your command line, is by saying which Python, and it'll tell you where that Python is. So now I have that. Now we're going to do some quick things. You notice this VS Code thing appeared? That's fine, that's just VS Code settings. And that kind of appears when you make changes. We're going to do a file. We're going to call this main.py, and I have some code, but I want to walk through it with you. Okay, so let's make sure that everything looks good, because I think that was db-1 is the host. We're going to find out. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're connecting straight to Postgres, and I'm just selecting the version in which we should be 16 something. But the part of this is I want you to look at the host, because think about when you connect to Python. You have a couple options. You have localhost 5432, you have the Docker internal, and then you do the port there. But the way I have this configured, since both of them are connected in this Docker Compose and they're in the same network, right? And I removed it from here, and my Docker Compose is running both my dev container and my Postgres. When I get down here, the host is just the container name, and that's all you have to do. Now that I think the container name may be db1, we're going to find out, but it's not. It's db, and you see that the select worked right here. Okay, that's this select version from, and just to show you, we'll do it this way. We'll do a step through. Python file, and I'll throw a breakpoint there, run and debug, right? And so you'll notice that the host is now just DB. You don't have to fight ports, you don't have to fight any of that. You're on the same network with it, and even if you have other Postgres running on your computer, you don't care, because you're using this DB connection directly inside of here, and so you're not fighting for that port usage. So I got DB, and I walk through it. You'll see that I have the cursor. I execute the version. It appears. Once I print it, there's the version. And then I close the cursor, close the connection. So that's kind of the traditional dev container way to set up Postgres when you need it, so you're not having to have it all over the place. Now, it still does show up in your Docker, and you still get to see it just like you do the other things. You still have this database and this app here that are running. so you don't have to, think that it's some other magic. But the easiest way for me is to put them together, and then I just talk to it directly over the Docker network without coming up a layer and worrying about the ports and everything else. And if you'll notice here in my Docker Compose, I don't expose any ports, right? Normally you have a port number that you're exposing or a port mapping somewhere. I don't do that because I'm talking on the same network, so I don't care about it. And it just kind of works that way, right? Okay, so that's that part of this. I hope that part's helpful. So now I want to take it up a little bit of a notch. We've done some of the basic things. We have Postgres in here. I'm going to change my dev container just a little bit. I'm going to step it up some. So some of the extensions I like, Rainbow CSV is a good one of mine. And then I use Zish because I'm a Mac person. And so when you have Bash here, right, which is fine. A lot of people use Bash, but I'm using utils. So things that aren't in here right now, I don't think Git's in here. Oh, Git is in here. Oh, that's nice. They gave us Git for free. Is curl in here? Curl's not. Curl is here. Okay, cool. So some of that's already in here. The common utils for a lot of containers give you some of this for free. It just gives you some extra things, and it gives you Zish. So I'm going to add that in there. I'm a fan of Rainbow CSV, so I added that in there. And then we're going to look at some SQL tools in here as well. Since we have this database just directly kind of connected on the same network, I'll show you a couple things with that. So I've changed this, right? So what do I need to do? I need to rebuild the container. It'll take a second, or it'll fail, and then I'll have to figure out what's wrong, but it's going to take a second. So just to recap, some of the key things are extensions. All your extensions can come in here, and then features, right? Like the AWS CLI and this common utils. And then in theory, this is, let's see what I can add here. If I do a new terminal, can I do a new terminal as Zish? Can I switch over? Let's see, what do I get? No, oh, there it is. Yep, Zish. So now I have Zish in here if I want to use Zish. And it has oh my Zish, as a matter of fact, is also part of this command line here. So it gives you other options just by using different features. Now let's talk about some of those other extensions here. Let's talk about this SQL tools and this Postgres driver that I put in there. So you guys know I'm a fan of DataGrip. Most people have watched any videos of mine know that whenever I go to a database, I use DataGrip. But if you're in a dev container and you've isolated yourself in here, and you're on the same network, you can use this SQL extension. So these SQL tools. So I'm going to add a new connection, and I'm going to add a Postgres. And connection name is local. No group. I'm going to connect using server and port. Server address we saw is just DB. Port still 5432. Database, I think it comes with a Postgres built in. We used dev, and we used, I don't need that. I'm just going to use plain text because I'm doing all this locally. So none of that really matters. SSL is disabled again because it's local. There's all kind of other things that you can but you don't really need that. Of course, I'm going to test before I save. Successfully connected, and you'll notice not localhost. I named it local, but that's just the name of it. My Postgres, right? My server address is just DB because I'm on the same network as it. So I'm going to save connection. Give it a second. Okay, cool. So now I am connected. Right, so if I connect now, I am in a SQL session. So again, select, I get select, right? I go over here to connections. I have the Postgres database. I have the schemas. There's the public schema. No tables. Okay. I'm refresh, make sure. No tables. Cool. So let's do something quick. So I'll have to do that. Create schema if not exists test. Let's try that. Oh, good. That's nice. Why are you not? No, syntax error at end of input. Oh, this is a fun one. Run on active connection. Oh, okay, well, good. So then, because it was rerunning that old query. Huh. Okay, so I'm going to refresh that. And I should have schemas here. Refresh. And there's my test schema. Good. So now I can create tables. Let's do something else here. Let's actually create a table. Let's do that. Okay. So create table if not exists, public.test ID serial primary key, blah, 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 blah. And we're going to execute this. Run on active connection up here. And it ran. Okay, and then if I go over here and I refresh some things, it's public, so let's do public tables test. Cool. Okay, so you can literally do it all right here beside everything you're doing. You don't have to go out to data grep. You can just kind of work in here, and it works for a lot of little quick things, especially if you're working on the same network as your container. You don't want to be, trying to go in and open up ports and doing all the things. So you get this nice little quick Postgres thing over here that you can just literally create connections and do a little scripts here, run on active connection kind of thing, just like you would in any other kind of database query tool. But it's just a little quick test. So you run your code and you pop over here to this tab and you look at your Postgres real quick, and then you go back to your code and run your code. It just kind of keeps everything contained. So that's my kind of thing here on using this dev container in this way. And if you'll notice that there's a my Postgres session.sql where it's saving your SQL scripts, and you can run them later. So there's a little bit of integration there that kind of works just natively. All right, so that's kind of everything I wanted to show. We're going to kind of call it here for now. It's a good half hour worth of going through dev containers and just kind of showing the setup with dev container and Postgres and using Docker Compose. Just for some recap, right? You have features. You can check the doc out and look at what other features are there, but put the AWS CLI right in the container as a one-liner. And then I mounted my profile target here into the container, so it gives me things where I can actually run my AWS SSO from directly in the container. Added a few little things here. Added my Rainbow CSV, the SQL tools. You get to see the SQL tools connecting here and able to run the queries right here in your container. And the other thing that we went through was being able to just connect to Docker using the host as the container name instead of having to fight ports and go out and all those things. Now you notice I did specify the port here. That's because SciCop G2 I think knows the port. This one, it will pick up that port, but you're not going outside of this network for the port. The port is on the Docker network, and Docker's handling that networking for you. And it's kind of an isolated togetherness here in the Docker container for your dev container. So I hope that's at least helpful, kind of getting this workflow started for some of you who are running Postgres containers locally and kind of trying to get your feet on how it should work and how to connect to things and where things go. So thank you so much for hanging in there with me. And as always, I appreciate your time, and I'll see you next time. Make sure you like and subscribe.